Constantinople, April 1453. The last Byzantine emperor, Constantine V, stands before the great chain stretched across the Golden Horn. His treasury is empty. His mercenaries have not been paid in 3 months. His generals advise him to flee to the Peloponnese with what little gold remains. He refuses. Instead, he orders the removal of silver and bronze from every church in the city, the chalices, the icons, the candlesticks. He melts them down. He mints new coins. He pays his soldiers. For one final week, the coins are pure. The soldiers stay. The walls fall on the 29th of May. That emperor did something that every doomed financial system does in its final act. He did not panic. He did not innovate. He followed a playbook so ancient, so repeated, so predictable, that a historian from Rome would have recognized it instantly. Empires do not break down randomly. They follow a sequence, a 5-stage pattern of financial behavior that appears whether you are examining the Spanish Habsburgs in 1596, the French Ancien Regime in 1788, the British Empire in 1931, or the Soviet Union in 1991. The first stage is the denial of arithmetic. An empire's spending exceeds its revenue not by accident but by ideology. The court believes itself exempt from the laws of mathematics. In the 1570s, Philip II of Spain defaulted on his debt not once, but 4 times. Each time he borrowed more from Genoese bankers. Each time he promised reform. Each time he spent the new money on the same unproductive war. The arithmetic never changed. The belief that it would, that is the first stage. The second stage is the attack on the messenger. When the arithmetic becomes undeniable, the empire does not correct its spending. It silences those who point at the numbers. In 1787, Charles-Alexandre de Calonne, the French finance minister, presented Louis XVI with a simple fact. The crown was spending 60% more than it collected. Calonne proposed a land tax on the nobility. The nobility exiled him. They replaced him with a minister who promised that borrowing could continue forever. 18 months later, the Bastille fell. The messenger was not the problem. The problem was the message. The third stage is the currency debasement disguised as reform. This is the most common behavior across all collapsing empires and the most misunderstood. The empire does not print money openly. It never announces hyperinflation. Instead, it introduces a new currency, a reformed currency, a modernized currency. In 196 AD, Emperor Septimius Severus reduced the silver content of the Roman denarius from 80% to 60%. He called it monetary modernization. In 1726, the French crown reduced the silver weight of the livre. They called it standardization. In 1971, Richard Nixon closed the gold window. He called it temporary. Each time, the market understood exactly what was happening. Each time, the empire insisted the market was wrong. The fourth stage is the desperate asset confiscation disguised as taxation. This is the stage Constantine XV reached in 1453. It is the stage every empire reaches when borrowing is exhausted. Printing is accelerating and the army is unpaid. The empire begins to take what it cannot tax. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt issued Executive Order 6102, criminalizing the private ownership of gold coins, gold bullion, and gold certificates. Citizens delivered their gold to the Federal Reserve. They received paper dollars in exchange. The following year, the dollar was devalued against gold by 40%. That gold confiscation was not an emergency measure. It was a stage. It had been written in the Playbook since Rome. The fifth and final stage is the scapegoat. The empire must explain its breakdown without admitting its own decisions. It blames external enemies, internal saboteurs, or an unspecified conspiracy. In 1520, the Spanish crown blamed the Flemish bankers for its default. In 1918, the German High Command blamed the Socialists and the Jews for the military collapse that their own strategy had produced. In 1991, Soviet hardliners blamed the CIA and the Western intelligence agencies, not the 70 years of economic irrationality that had left store shelves empty. The scapegoat is not a cause, it is a symptom, it is the final sound a system makes before it stops breathing. Modern relevance? Observe any large economy approaching a debt crisis. Watch for these 5 behaviors. First, leaders who dismiss debt to GDP ratios as irrelevant. Second, institutions that punish economic critics rather than answering them. Third, monetary policy described as new paradigm or temporary accommodation that nevertheless continues for years. Fourth, discussions of wealth taxes, capital controls, or mandatory pension conversions. Fifth, a sudden, intense focus on an external enemy trade war, cyber threat, foreign disinformation that coincides with domestic financial stress. These are not political opinions. They are historical patterns. They have occurred in every major currency collapse from the 3rd century to the 21st. The Byzantine emperor did not save his city. The melted silver and bronze bought 7 days, 7 days of resistance, 7 days of honor. Then the walls fell. But here is the detail the textbooks omit. Constantine XV removed his imperial regalia before the final assault. He walked into the breach dressed as a common soldier. He was never identified. His body was never found. He understood something that all collapsing empires understand, but never until it is too late. The currency dies, the system dies, the empire dies. But the people who adapt, who strip away the symbols and keep the substance, they walk into the next cycle holding something real. The question is not whether your empire is in the final stage. The question is whether you will recognize the stage before you are standing at the breach.